Hey, what's going on, guys? This is part 2 to the how to paint Popeye in Photoshop. Remember, in part 1 we covered a lot of things. We covered how to import your file. We covered your DPI settings. We also covered should you ink in your line art or should you just cover color over your sketch. So for this particular tutorial, I'm going to piggyback off what I did in the first video, which is just color over the sketch. And we're going to be coloring his uniform, his hat, his pipe, and his can of spinach. So this should fairly be a quick video, so follow along as I do that. Also, if you don't remember what we talked about in part 1, I will leave a description and a link in the description box to that video, so you can get caught up to speed. So we'll just move on from there. So remember, now in the first video, you can just select the base color, which I did in the first video, which I pretty much colored around the areas that I only wanted selected. So now I can just, it's just a lot easier now. I could just hit one control select and it'll just select all that base, and now I can just isolate what I want and what I don't want colored. So now moving forward, now I'm going to create a new layer, and I just name this uniform, and I'm going to try to be really quick with this because I don't want you to get bored. We'll just say uniform base, and we'll go from there. So of course, again, if you look at the reference photo, it's solid white, so I don't want a white out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a white, but I'm going to kind of tone it down some so that it's not completely a white, maybe a little gray in there. And I'm going to take my brush tool, make that a solid, make the opacity completely 100, and I'm going to just go over the areas I want white. And I'm not worried about going outside the lines. I'm not worried about coloring over his flesh tones, his skin. I'm not worried about that right now. I'm just trying to fulfill the areas that I want white so that I can isolate that for the future, and this will also increase your speed so that you don't have to use the little tools to go back and select the areas that you don't want colored in. So of course, now that, zoom in something a little bit. Now that I got that done, I can take my erase tool, and of course there's many ways of doing this, but this is just my method, and I'm just going to erase what I don't need. Erase what I don't need. Get that out the way. Get over here in his neck a little bit. Go from there. There we go. Get all that done. So just doing all this little house cleaning before you get completely started. And I kind of missed a little area up there with in white, so I'm going to go back and fill that in a little bit. This area up in here. Make sure that that's completely white. Go from there. That way I'm good. Everything is completely white. What I want white. And so now I can deselect that, and now I can just select this. So now you don't have to worry about using like the lasso tool to go back and outline the areas that you want highlighted or to be colored in. So now from this point I got the uniform basically shaded in. It's almost like an offset white. So now I'm going to create another layer, and I'm going to call that shadow or shade, whichever one works for you. Shadow, shade, darks, lights, however you want to do it is fine with me. I make that mode a multiply mode so that whatever I color over is going to be darker because it's going to lay on top of that uniform base layer. So now I'm going to go get a gray. I'm just picking a basic gray. Like I said, I'm freestyling this. Got a basic gray, and I'm going to lower the opacity down to about 50%, and we'll see how that works. I'm going to make my brush a soft brush instead of a solid brush. And now I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing. And now I'm just going to follow the shadows that I created with the flesh tone. So I'm going to probably start right here. Let's see how this works. Yeah, that's perfect. Start right here, and I probably should have increased the size of that brush to cover more images, but I'm going to do that. I'm also going to get up under here, right up under his arm. I'm going to get that, and then I'm going to also lay down just a little bit in the top corner. You probably can't see that well, but and then I'm going to probably just draw a little shadow in there. And again, with the other side, I'm going to do this too as well. I'm going to come back. I'm just shading in everything I want colored, and I'll probably bring that across and go up and probably go into there with that. Just kind of eyeballing where I want my light source to be. Definitely want to put a little shadow where the crease is, where his hood is. Put a little shadow in there. Okay, so now that I got that done, I'm good to go with that. Now you got a choice. You can leave it as is, or if you want to kind of blend it in to make it look a little bit more natural, which that's what I do a lot with mine. So I'm going to take my eraser tool. I'm going to lower that down to about 20%. I'm going to increase my brush size, and I'm going to just go along those lines. Until it kind of fades and blends in. I may need to increase that opacity up a little bit. And as you can see, it's kind of blended in. And we'll go from there. So moving forward, you can blend in your shadows like that. I'm going to go back a little bit because I kind of like the way that I did it the first. It just kind of gives a more kind of realistic feel to it. So I'm going to keep my little, as you can see, this little shadow line right here. You kind of see that a lot with cell animation, Disney style. So I'm going to keep that. I kind of like that. So from this point, I got everything good now. I'm going to go up to the hat, and I'm going to just follow the same process. And oh, I'm sorry. You got to go and you got to select your hat too as well. And so, oops, deselect. There you go. And like I said, everything didn't get covered with the hat, so I'm going to deselect that, and I'm going to get my selection tool and go back to the base, and I'm going to just draw around it. Get all that part selected. Make sure I got all that. And of course, what I don't use, I can always erase. Go back and get that white and make sure all that's filled in. And as you can see, I got a little overhang up top. Of course, just come back with your eraser tool and just erase that. Just erase what you don't need and go from there. That's some of his hair right there, so I don't need all that. It's going to be a lot of maintenance I'm going to do in the post, but I'm just showing you the basics right here. So now I go in and so there we go, and select that hat. I'm good to go. Go back and get another gray. I'm going to tone that down to 50% like it is. Make sure my brush is still soft, and now I just go along right in here, right up in here, and I may do a little right here and keep that basically how it is. So now I got my base shadows in for his uniform. You can always go with an extra layer. All depends upon how deep you want to go with it. So what I mean by that is you can create another layer and call it shades to add an extra depth of shadow and darkness to it. It's totally up to you. If you're going to do that, just follow the same process I did, but now I'm going to increase my opacity to about maybe 70%, 75%, and I'm going to select both of them this time. I'm going to select his shirt, and now I can select his hat. And remember, you can hit Control H to hide that so that it doesn't distract you. And again, I'm following the same concept. I may make down under his arm, just may make that darker, just to kind of give that extra element of shadow. Maybe right here. Oops. Right there. Let me come right here. And I'll probably blend this in with that first shadow. And I'll probably do this. Again, follow that same line. You know, and then I can erase. You can also come back in and erase some of your oops. Colored on the wrong layer here. Uh-oh. We're gonna go back. I colored on the wrong layer. There we go. Remember, you can, that does happen. So again, just the same process. Follow that line here, and then I can keep that right there, so I'm good with that. And then follow this one. Follow that one right there. And like I said, I may just blend in this, and what I mean by blend is I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to blend in that second source. As you can see, I'm just kind of, you can erase it, you can blur it, whichever one works better for you to get the effect that you want to get. And remember, this is the base shirt wasn't even a complete white, but once you start adding shadows to it, it's going to make it look white. Again, up top, same thing. Right here, right here, right here, right here. And again, I'll just blend that in a little bit. So now I'm pretty cool with that. You can, if you want to add another source of light or shadow or different colors, again, you can make a new layer, and I would just name this one color shade. We'll just say color shade. Make it multiply, and now let's say if I want to add in a little blue, just like a little hue of blue, and make it real light so that it kind of blends in. That's probably too much. You can always fade it out. Yeah, you can fade it out like that. And that's what I should have did first. I should have just faded it out. But so now you got a little hue of blue in there as well, which kind of further, because you know it may be some blue light sparkling somewhere or anything like that. So now you got all that done. Probably not going to do it for the hat though, but well, yeah, since I'm doing it for the shirt, I'll do it for the hat. Let's go ahead and add it in right here. Little source of blue right here. We're good to go. But that's still, that line, that shadow line is still a little too prominent, so I'm going to probably blur that in a little bit more, and go from there. There you go. There you go. Now, if I want to add some highlights to this, make a new layer. I'll turn the mode to a screen, and probably make that color yellow so that I know what I'm doing. Now you can come back and you can use your white, and you can increase that opacity some, and now you can add some white in here. You probably can't see that well, so I'm gonna probably do a normal, and let's do that. Yeah. So now I'm just adding whites as spotlights. And that way it kind of gives it more of a feel to it, to where it's white. Also, I can put some white along the edges of his arm right here. We may want to tone that down some. Let's tone that down some. Increase the size and tone it down. There you go. You can do that. And again, we just freestyling this. Looks like he had some blue. We're gonna go with a navy blue because Popeye was in the Navy. So we're gonna go a little navy blue, and we're gonna just color in some of his hoodie. Looks like he had some up here. Let me increase that opacity some. Got that. Go back. There we go. And we got a little over here. Some right here. We got some right here. And that's some of the challenges sometimes when you have to color over the sketch. Your line work may be a little inconsistent. So you have to find a way to overcome that. Or if you was inking it in, then your lines will be clear. He has a little red in there too. So you have to think about that, especially when you're doing commission work. Do you want to just color over the sketch? Of course, it'll be a lot faster. But I always say consult with your clients and determine how they want to do it. We go from there. And he had a little blue in his hat up here. So, and what I did was I compensated that blue with that black. So I'm just going to cover up this black with that blue right there. And I probably, yeah, we'll go right here. That black, that blue. There you go. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can always take it a step further and do more if you wanted to. You can, it all depends upon how far you want to go with your level of detail, how you want to express your light and shadow, how far you want to go, how far, a lot of times we don't push it. And what we'll do is once we get the desired effect we want, we'll just leave the image alone. But you can really push it and go a lot further. But I'm going to stop it here for the sake of time. And in the next video, we're going to finish his pipe. We're going to finish his can of spinach. And also, we're going to do a background. So if you have any suggestions to a background that you would like to see me do pertaining to this particular image here, feel free to drop that down in the comment section. So until then, take care, have fun, peace.